they're owned by Tencent, so they're stealing my info and they're selling it to China. That's total BS.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes, because people on the internet are just full of hot air. They're full of so much things.
The internet is dark and full of secrets.
Oh God, the night is dark and full of internet boys. What's up, hedgehogs and werehogs? Welcome to the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 27. I am your host, Oni Dino. With me, I have the human inspiration for Knuckles from Sonic Boom. It's Galen.
How did you know that I skipped leg day? Man, the entire Sonic Boom character design line was just so bad.
It was not one of their strong points.
No, not at all.
I don't know, Sonic and his neckerchief, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit weak. But you know what I heard is that the TV show is really well written, which is in stark contrast to the video games being not good.
Right. Well, and I heard that they had the TV show and everything lined up before they even had the game, or they even started designing the game. They came up with the characters, then they came up with the story, then they came up with the video game to go along with it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, the whole thing felt like a really pushed product, which, I mean, Sonic has always been, Mario has always been, but yeah, that really felt like a product, that one.
And I mean, look at He-Man and G.I. Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you come up with the toys before you come up with the franchise. It's weird.
Right. Star Wars too. Everybody wants to talk about the integrity of Star Wars and whatever, but that's always been a toy line for sure. You know. Oh God, I should not. Okay, I don't care about Star Wars. I'm really sorry anybody who's listening to that, but the Star Wars fan base can be rabid, so I should not dip my toe in that acid pool.
The voices of hundreds and thousands of, fanboys just crying out in anger, and then suddenly our subscription basis goes silent.
Honestly, we're not even 2 minutes in, and I've already probably insulted the Sonic fan base and the Star Wars fan base.
Keep it going. High score. Let's go.
This is two of the fan bases that have had a lot of crap thrown at them in recent years. They don't deserve it, but then there's also the really rabid ones as well, who are pretty freaking crazy in my opinion.
You sure they don't? They don't deserve it?
No, not the amount of crap they've been receiving. You know what I mean? Every amount of fandom, because fandoms are terrible. Let me just spoiler alert right there. Fandoms in general are just awful. But nobody deserves all that.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what's coming up in this episode is the Sonic the frickin' Hedgehog trailer. Wow, we're going to be talking about that. And the director responding to criticisms and promising changes. We're also going to be talking about Forza possibly coming to Switch, Suda Goichi hosting another panel at Momocon, Bloodstained, and Psyonix, the creators of Rocket League, being purchased by Epic Games. So, got a lot of little things to talk about and have some rant and raves about. But just before we do all that, I want to give a PSA to everybody listening. To celebrate the recent launch of Hob, the Definitive Edition, Panic Button and Perfect World Entertainment were kind enough to supply us at Nintendo Everything with codes for the game Hob as part of a giveaway. So we have 5 codes in total, so we will have 5 winners. So you can enter into the lottery to win. To enter, simply go to the featured post on our website titled Giveaway Hob Definitive Edition and leave a comment in that post on the aspect that you find the most interesting about Hob. We'll then pick the winners at random on May 9th. So if you're listening to this before May 9th, go enter. Free games.
Nice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Galen and I cannot participate.
That is true.
But I was going to play that game anyway, so I guess I'll buy it with my own real money dollars.
All of the Oni dollars.
Oh, did I say Oni? I meant to say money dollars. You know what? Oni dollars, way better.
You said my own money dollars, but I like Oni dollars. I like The idea of a crisp, clean bill with your face just looking sour and just displeased.
I just did a Grinch thing where I was like Captain Frowny Face, and then it curled into an evil laughter smile.
This is why we need a video aspect to this podcast.
Abso-freaking-lutely not. That sounds like the worst. So let's talk about our brief adventure log and go right into Sonic.
Are we going to go fast?
We're going to go something. So Galen, why don't you tell me what you've been playing this week?
I would love to if I really played anything.
What a jerk!
No, this has been a really busy week for me personally. Didn't really get much planned. I did go see Avengers in the theater, so I will abstain from spoilers throughout the entire thing, but
yes.
I will say I did enjoy the movie. I guess in some sort of gaming culture way, I did start playing Hearthstone on my phone. So I guess that is something. It's not necessarily a Nintendo game by any sense, but I mean, I'm always up for a good card game, and I haven't been getting my Magic fix in lately, so decided to give that a try, and seems pretty fun. Would recommend.
How is it? What's it like?
It's very similar to Magic, but it's a simplified version of Magic. You start with more life, you have a much smaller deck, but what I really appreciate is instead of having to draw certain mana or resources in order to spend to play your cards, you automatically get a little bit of resources at the beginning of every turn, and it's that pool slowly increases on and on and on. So you have 1 mana crystal on turn 1, and then on turn 2 you have 2 to spend, and then you have 3, and then 4. So it grows on, and it really kind of controls the flow of the game. So the longer you play, you start making these big, huge, attacks and swings and plays on one another, and start summoning dragons, and it's a lot of fun. My favorite deck is one that does not rely on any creatures and purely spells that I get to throw in everybody's face and just start destroying everything, which makes everybody really frustrated because they are holding all these spells that are like, destroy target creature, and I'm like, haha, I don't have any.
I guess that's one strategy to it, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna destroy your strongest stuff. Trick's on you, because I don't have anything strong. I'm not good. Pretty much.
That is definitely a technique that I have taken from my Magic the Gathering card playing days. Other than that, like I said, I'd recommend trying out the game. It's free to download for your phone. The microtransactions technically are there, but only in the sense that you buy card packs from the game. But every time you play a match, you also get gold, and it's like 100 gold per pack that you can buy. So it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a pay-to-win scenario that you're going into.
Yeah, I hear it's balanced somewhat fairly.
It really is. It
That's
really is kind of balanced. What I also really like is that no matter what type of deck that you try to build, there are certain heroes that you can select, and they give you certain powers. Like the mage, you can spend 2 mana to throw a firebolt at somebody and do 1 damage, which can really come in when they're not expecting it. And then if you're playing the warrior, you spend 2 mana and you get 2 armor for your character, which it's kind of like gaining health, but it's like temporary HP in a sense. It makes it kind of unique, and you can kind of build your deck around whatever that skill is to kind of best emphasize that.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I guess one other thing is that this weekend I'm actually planning on getting Phoenix Wright for the Switch.
Damn right you are.
Hell yeah. This is going to be very interesting because I've always been a huge Phoenix Wright fan.
Yeah.
I think I played the first 4 games that they came out with. And I know the one that they came out with the Switch is just the first 3 games remastered and kind of put all together. But my wife has not played it yet, so this is going to be really interesting to have the two of us play it together.
So you're going to beat her over the head with your Switch and be like, Phoenix Wright, play it. Gyakuten Saibag.
Yeah. You know what? She sounds like she's really excited, so
Oh, good. That or she's like, feign excitement and he'll stop talking to me.
You know what? I feel like it's the same end result in the end. So,
Galen's wife, if you're listening, if you need help, I don't know, message
leave
me.
a comment.
I don't. Oh yeah, leave a comment. Leave a comment that says Galen is the best at video games. Yeah.
Love you, honey.
Yeah, so your fervor for that series has always given me like a passing interest in it, and I'm like, I should really play it. So I think I will buy that, but I have a lot of things right now, so if it goes on sale, I think I will buy it and finally play it because you've always wanted me to play that. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I really have.
It's a fantastic game, and it's also a very calming game, but it's a very invested game.
Mm.
The most gameplay that there actually is just you using your logic to like be like, hey, what he said is a complete lie and I can prove it with this piece of evidence. But there's no time restrictions or anything like that. You're not pressured other than what is the answer to this particular situation. It's very relaxing and kind of low-key in that effect. It also balances how serious and sometimes morbid the game can be with how lighthearted and absolutely kooky. My favorite part, and I think it was the first game, is when you are interrogating a parrot.
Mm.
And it's not like a talking, hey, I've got a personality and whatnot parrot. He just literally was a parrot at the crime scene, and every time you press him to try to say something, he will respond with a different thing that was trained to say or overheard. So you have to press each one and find out what thing corresponds to what happened at the murder scene. And it's just, it's so bizarre.
I love that, though. That sounds like a lot of fun. I really need to buy that game.
Mm-hmm. I highly recommend it. My only complaint is that it's like rereading a mystery novel. Like, once you solve it the first time, you kind of know what to expect coming through.
I see.
But that first time, especially if you don't look up any guides or anything like that when you're playing it, it's nothing sweeter.
I see. Yeah, well, the Ace Attorney Trilogy on Switch is probably a pretty fair price for all three games put together. I actually don't know how much it costs to you.
I want to say it's either $30 or $40. I want to say it's on the 30 end.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty fair for 3 games.
Yeah, no,
I do
absolutely.
That. Yeah, I'll do that.
And each game is divided into 4 to 5 different chapters in it too. So each chapter is its own case that you're going through, and then each section of that chapter is like 2 to 3 different days in the courtroom, and then switching between that and doing investigations in the area, and then going back to the courtroom with your findings. So there actually is a lot of content that you're getting in for that price.
Very cool. On this note of Ace Attorney, I did want to mention, because I just jokingly said the Japanese title earlier. I was talking to a Japanese friend, and we got on the topic of Ace Attorney, and he was saying how the title in Japanese is so much better than the title in English. And of course, Ace Attorney is good because of the alliteration. It's very memorable.
Mm-hmm.
In Japanese, the title is Gyakuten Saiban, and Gyakuten means like a sudden reversal, like kind of the thing you do when you're like, objection, and then suddenly the jury is like floored, like, oh my god, like it's a total change in tone, total change in expectation. It's a complete reversal. So that's what gyakuten means. And then saiban just means like a trial or whatever. But it's interesting how, and I don't think that the English title is bad by any means, just this is my friend's opinion. And with him also knowing English, it's interesting to hear his opinion, and then me also knowing Japanese, my opinion as well. And I thought that was kind of an interesting take on the two titles and just localization in general for video games that I never considered before. And he made me consider it, so I thought, hey, I'll share that with the listeners now that Galen just brought up Ace Attorney.
That's actually really cool. And that is one other thing I'm really excited about this game and just re-experiencing it, because the localization that went into this game, because it was so story driven and like a heavy emphasis on the plot and the character design, it's beautiful. Like, it's the way that they were able to put things, because it's weird that it's in quote unquote California as far as like where the legal proceedings are, but
they changed that much too.
yeah, a little bit. But with that said, a lot of the jokes and everything that they were in, even as I was understanding how the humor, where the humor originated from, I could tell it had a very Japanese sense of humor and style to it. But I feel like they were able to translate that into an English-speaking audience quite effectively.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could talk about localization all day long, just from having worked in localization for a bit. I have lots of experiences and lots of things to say about it, because it is such a tough job in so many factors, and so many people, especially on the internet, don't know what they're talking about. Oh, we're going to talk about that aspect of things. But there's armchair whatever people on the internet, so armchair attorneys or armchair CGI artists on the internet, where people are just talking and insisting when they don't actually know what they're talking about. Armchair localization experts, all that. So it's so funny to hear people talk about localization like it's a dirty word, like it means censorship or something like that. And I am so gung-ho to prove people wrong on that, because wow, do you not know what you're talking about if that's your serious stance on it. And I mean, it's not like I like to like put people in their place. It's that I like to spread accurate information. So I could talk about this all day long, but we got a podcast to do.
I just want to hear you talk more about the term armchair whatever, because I've actually never heard of that before.
Have you not? Oh, it's
No.
It's definitely a thing that people say for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Like whenever somebody has an opinion on whatever, and we're going to talk about that right now pretty much with Sonic the Hedgehog, there's so many people talking about, oh, well, they need to change this or that. And it's like, okay, you're being an armchair CGI artist right now. And what that term means is just that like you're sitting in your chair and giving orders, but you don't actually do anything, or you don't actually have knowledge or practical skill or whatever, but you're able to just sit there in your armchair and shout like, I know what's wrong, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Kind of like the boss leaning back in the armchair and being like, you should do this, when the people on the ground floor are like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. And sometimes they do, but they're just not doing anything. Sometimes, and more often than not, they just don't know what they're talking about, but they'll talk in a manner like they need to insist they know what they're talking about. It's such an internet age thing that has become so prevalent, and I don't know, it's a little concerning, socially speaking.
Anyway, I think we've sidetracked a bit.
Quite a bit. So before we jump into Sonic, let me say I have been playing Dragon's Dogma on the Switch lately. Haven't gotten too far into it. And I mean, I've played this a lot, so I can't give like first impressions or anything like that. I played it on the PS3, a little bit on the PS4. It's tons of fun. That game is so well paced in the very beginning, and it's exciting, and you want to explore so many things. It has that like Breath of the Wild feel to it, where you're afraid to go forward. You're like, what is going to kill me? What is around the corner? Like when you first play Breath of the Wild. And I love that feeling of video games. It's a feeling that not very many games nail down, but it's also not like, it's not like a Dark Souls thing. A lot of people have been throwing out Dark Souls comparison. I feel like that's people who haven't laid hands on the game, because it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels maybe more like Dragon Age, if anything, but I don't know. It feels like a skosh like Dragon Age, a skosh like Monster Hunter, and then 70% kind of its own thing. But it feels really good. One of the key aspects to the game is pawns. Pawns are basically just NPCs that you can rent out from another realm, basically. And if your friends make pawns, you can rent them out, and then you teach them quests that you end up going on. You can give them gifts and stuff like that. They learn how to fight certain types of enemies better by fighting them more. So if you have friends and you're trading your pawns between each other, they are learning more skills for the actual person, and it's a fantastic system. It's one of my favorite aspects of that game. So the reason I want to bring that up is anybody out there who's listening who is playing this game or wants to play this game,
give me your pawns.
Not give me your pawns, give me your friend codes, okay? And then we can trade pawns. and then we can teach each other's pawns things and experience and gifts and stuff like that. So if you guys are playing this game, send me a message on Twitter or send us an email at nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com, and I'll send you my friend code. I don't like putting my friend code out publicly because I end up getting like a ton of random requests, and I'm like, God, who are these people? So I ended up like deleting everybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, you want my friend code? I'll give it to you. Just message me on Twitter or an email or whatever, and let's trade pawns.
Send him his pawns, and he might become the Pawn Star.
You're fired. Firing you. This is the worst thing. This is the worst thing you've ever said in my life. Also, final note on that, I always forget how ugly the character models are in this game because so much of the game looks very nice. And then just in stark contrast to that, wow, those character models don't look great. It's hard to make a decent looking one.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, on to the news.
Speaking of crappy looking characters.
We got the first full trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie. So wow, that trailer came out and it sure is a movie trailer. Sonic doesn't look great.
This trailer was beautiful. It was so fulfilling. I got everything I wanted from this trailer.
So I want to start off with saying, okay, I don't want to just hate on something for the sake of hating on it. That sucks. That is not fun. That does not make you interesting to just be that person. And I want to also apologize to the Sonic fan base. Like I said in the beginning of the show, you do not deserve this. You don't deserve this character. That said, the movie doesn't look like the absolute worst thing or something like that. It just, in my opinion, personal opinion here, it doesn't look funny. It doesn't look interesting. Sonic is animated very poorly and he looks bad. Like when we saw stills before, I was like, it doesn't look great, but it's not bad. It's certainly another take and it doesn't look great, but it's fine. Like whatever. I don't have a dog in the fight. I've never really been a Sonic fan or anything. I don't care one way or another. But when he was animated in this trailer, I had an actual physical reaction to watching him in that scene where he was like, meow. And he made the face that everybody's sharing on Twitter. As soon as he made that face, I was like, oh, I actually did that when I looked at it, and I have no dog in the fight. He just looks that bad to me. The most uncanny thing is he's got the human mouth and human teeth, and I'm like, it looks like what people probably thought of when they saw the actual platypus in real life for the first time. Like, this thing has to be a science project. It has to have been sewn together. Let's look for suture marks. God, it's such a shame. Galen, what did you think when you saw this?
I had no words
Uh-huh.
the entire time I was watching this. Like, very, very rarely do I watch a trailer and I'm just, like, stunned by what I saw. Where to start? First off, can we please talk about the music selection? How does
Oh, geez, I
Gangsta
forgot.
Paradise.
Yeah, what was with that?
How does Gangsta Paradise fit with anything that was going on here?
Now, I have to say, go right back to 1994 and you will see baby Oni. I wasn't a baby at that time, but you will see very young Oni bopping around to Gangsta's Paradise, and also the fantastic remake, whatever you want to call it, of that song, Amish Paradise by Weird Al Yankovic. I was a fan of both of those. So I'm cool with the song. The choice of that song in the trailer, what was with that, right? Like, it was like they put it in there because they thought it was like absurdist humor or just funny because of the tonal dissonance, but it felt so off and try-hardy that it wasn't like, ha ha ha, wow, this is funny because it's so weird or anything like that. It felt so uncreative. To do absurdist humor and things like that, you have to actually have writing and talent behind it to make it look effortless.
Yeah. No, it felt like there was absolutely no effort put into this entire thing from anybody. I mean, who's the main guy? Scott Marsden? Or James Marsden? What's his name?
I know why
Sorry.
you did that. Yeah, James
Yeah.
Marsden is his name. You said Scott because he played Scott Summers in those super awful X-Men movies.
I believe that, spoiler alert, when Scott Summers dies in those movies, this is the hell that he now lives in.
Oh, it's cute. I like it. He's a funny comedic actor, too. He was in 30 Rock, and he was great in that.
He was great in 30 Rock. I like his character when he embraces how to ham things up. Like, he was actually the prince in the Disney movie Enchanted. And his entire character was written to be a parody of the prince archetype. And I felt like the way that he acted in that really kind of... it worked. Like, he's a good actor, and I can see him doing good work here. But my problem is that what he brought to the table, like, just from the trailers, mind you, it was weird.
Mm.
Granted, all he had to react to was Sonic saying meow, so take that as you will. Then we have Jim Carrey as
Wait,
Dr.
before we
Robotnik.
go into that, though, because we gotta talk about that, I do want to say that, like, the writing doesn't seem very good. Like, none of the jokes landed, and they felt like, oh, I can guess exactly what they're going to say, or wow, that felt forced, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame because, like, the direction that they were going with the jokes is probably where they need to go with it to make a movie like this. But I don't know, it just wasn't good writing, and I didn't laugh at all. I hope that James Marsden can do an okay job. I didn't get a sense of Sonic's personality in this at all, you know? Like, he's not the typical Sonic from the games that we see, like, hey guys, whoa, you're too slow. That kind of, you know, goofy, cheesy AF kind of character, which they should have done that. That would have been what fans would have liked. Because, I mean, I said this about the Pikachu thing. It's a video game movie. All it really needs to be successful is competent, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bar is low AF for video game movies.
Seriously.
I don't know. I don't know why this is this.
So here's what I think my problem with this movie is. So when Sonic was originally created, he was meant to be this, like, embodiment of this edgy for the 90s icon.
I wouldn't say edgy, but he was supposed to be cool.
Yeah.
Wasn't he? And I feel like this is even a quote, is that he was supposed to be a Mario killer.
Yeah,
And not killer as in, like, you know, murderer, but like killer as in, like, well, this is direct competition with Mario because you're going to be zooming through these levels and it's going to feel cooler than playing Mario. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners.
No, you're 100% right.
Okay.
Sega needed a mascot to kind of get behind because Nintendo had so many mascots on their end. Sega felt like they needed something not only to rival Mario, but they also needed something to kind of showcase the speed and power of their new Sega Genesis system. And in that combination of everything, that is where the idea for Sonic kind of came from. So that was kind of exemplified with all of the cartoons that came out around then. So you had both versions of the original Sonic ones, or Sonic Adventure. Was it Sonic Adventures, the TV show that came out? I can't remember.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah. They had their 90s cartoons where it was the adventures of Sonic and, you know, fighting a rebellion because that was what was in at the time, apparently. And, like, they established an attitude and they established a personality with him, but it was very much grounded into what was popular and what was targeted in the 90s.
Yeah. They could have just done the 90s cool thing and just made him, like, sort of, you know, 70% competent and like 20% sort of bumbling because of the coolness factor and like the cheesiness factor, and 10% absurdist or random or whatever. And I think that would have landed with fans because it's a video game movie. All you really need to do is pander to nostalgia. That doesn't make it creative by any means, but if you want to make it like an okay, successful, competent movie, that's all you got to do.
That's the thing. Like, my problem with this movie was that the way they the origins and what we remember most fondly about Sonic is kind of that 90s personality that they had there. I mean, some people would argue maybe the Sonic Adventure series for the GameCube really kind of kicked it off as well, too.
That's where they really hammed up that. I mean, because he didn't have like too much of a personality beforehand, but with Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast and GameCube and so on from there is when they had voice acting and stuff.
But then you switch over to the trailer for this movie, and everything in this movie absolutely screams that it was some sort of formulated, auto-generated, hey, we're putting in these references because this is what is popular at the time. Like, the fact that you had Jim Carrey Robotnik say you're basic and then walk off. Like,
oh yeah, that wasn't
that just
funny.
screamed so much cringe to me.
That was cringy, especially because that's a joke that would have landed maybe 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But now, yeah, that's a great example. I forgot about that joke. That's a great example of jokes that just didn't land but went in the right direction.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say that actually piqued my interest in this is that scene where Sonic is running down the building trying to chase after the two other human characters, and he throws out the ring and it creates a portal. I think that is kind of a cool concept, and I would like to see more of what they do on that. But that is seriously the only good thing that I can say about this trailer.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that probably is very Sonic feeling. I can't say one way or another because I'm not a Sonic fan, but that made me roll my eyes in the exact same way that a lot of actual Sonic games or Sonic stories do make me roll my eyes, which is probably a good sign for people that want to see cheesy Sonic.
Cheesy on a chili dog.
Yeah, also, there was not a chili dog reference in there. Just go with it. The Sonic Twitter is great, right? they do good stuff. So just, what's that called? Collaborate with those people just to make some jokes. I'm sure they can make better jokes. Even if you're just consorting. Why do I keep going back to consorting? Consulting with them. Screwing up my L's and R's. I'm sorry. Even if you're consulting with them just for the one-liners. Because that's what Sonic should be, right? Is he should have a lot of one-liners in this movie, don't you think?
Yeah, most definitely.
And then, whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to write Sonic. I'm not. And I'm not going to sit here and be an armchair guy, right? But I don't know. It's just... So let's talk about Jim Carrey in the role, right?
Okay.
In my opinion, that's probably the only glimmer of hope left in this. It's the only thing that showed like it might have some promise. If Jim Carrey is chewing the scenery and he gets to be Raul Julia levels of hammy, that'll work out. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Raul Julia, who starred as M. Bison in the Street Fighter film, which was an atrocious film, but Raul Julia is the best part of that movie because he is just so over the top. It's enjoyable to watch on a B movie kind of level. And if Jim Carrey can do that, that'll be great. However, I feel like this movie is too overproduced, has too many hands in the pot for that to really land. I don't know. I feel bad for Sonic fans, you know?
Jim Carrey in here is interesting to me because I feel like he can be funny and he can definitely bring that erratic energy to the movie, but I don't necessarily think that correlates to what people relate to Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah.
It seems like a miscasting.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. that one's hard because, I don't know, it just seems so weird to me. Like, it's hard to say that he would not be able to do a good job in the role because everything that we have seen so far says the writing of this movie is going to be terrible. Because the writing of the movie has not shown any understanding of why people liked Sonic.
Yeah.
And the attitude and the spirit of what a Sonic movie should be if they were going on that. So I'm not going to knock Jim Carrey's performance on this, but again, it was the bad jokes that just weren't lining up at all. I can see him having a moment where in the movie, he goes absolutely crazy and wacky like Jim Carrey usually does, but that's not what Robotnik does. Like,
yeah, that's true. And I mean, I'm totally cool with
hard.
like reinterpretations of the character. I'm all about that kind of thing. And of course, like I said, not a Sonic fan, so I don't care. But I'm fine with like Sonic or Robotnik just suddenly being a comical character or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that criticism.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I don't know.
another aspect, now that we got our impressions out of the way, another aspect of this is that the director of the film responded on Twitter to criticism, and he promises to make changes to Sonic by the release of the film. Now, I have problems with that statement, because how? How are they going to do this in such short amount of time? This movie is supposed to come out in 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not an animator. I have not worked in film marketing. I have not worked in toy production. I have to preface this with I don't know exactly how those things go, what the timeline on the workflow is on all that. I have seen experts on Twitter, though, who are 3D artists and animators, who are marketers, talk about this, though, because there's a lot of backlash to a lot of people who are logically saying, oh, well, 6 months seems like enough time. All they have to do is just kind of reanimate his face. If they keep his proportions and stuff like that, shouldn't be too much work, right? That's kind of a logical thought to have, so I can't fault anybody for thinking that. But based on the reactions I've seen on Twitter from 3D animators, this is actually a ton of work and close to unlikely. In regards to what needs to be done, even if they only change the face, I've seen people say that scene blocking and filming needs to be changed. There needs to be different rigs to animate, relight, and recomposite every shot that features Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they just do the face and the lips, they still have to relight every scene to make corrections with the model and how it's going to interact with the scene. Otherwise, you're going to get a late 90s look because it's not going to be lit for the scene at all, and it's going to stick out real bad, and it's going to look worse than this already looks. So that's something we need to consider.
So my big concern about this entire thing is, one, I think this is the type of Sonic we're going to be getting. I do not think they are going to change his character at all. And the reason why is because of the quote-unquote leaks that they have sent out before and that they have had before. And this is still the finished product, and they are just now saying, well, we love the constructive criticism and the support that you guys have given us. Bull. I am calling bull on that right now. They knew far well what the problems were, and they knew exactly what kind of backlash they were going to be getting when they actually had this come out. They should have been focusing and listening to what the fans have been saying since day one when those first hairy legs showed up on the Golden Gate Bridge. This is not a surprise to anybody. This is completely a PR statement of them saying, hey, we're going to listen to you, because they want to shift the blame over to say if the movie doesn't do well in the theaters, they can say, well, we did try to make some last minute changes, and it wasn't the finished product that they actually wanted. No, they are basically already making the excuses for their future failings by saying this right here. They knew exactly what they were doing.
So I have two thoughts on that. Not only should they have listened to people from when things leaked or whatever, because there was a very vocal backlash to it, they should have listened to the artists that were making this. Now, again, this is speculation on my part, but I am sure, just from working in traditional business settings on the lower rung of the ladder, I'm sure plenty of 3D artists and animators were saying, this looks bad. Why is this our character design? We really need to change it. And they were saying that to low level management, and it just fell on deaf ears. Whether it was the low level management or mid management or whatever, they should have listened to the artists. But what do they know? They're just artists, right? So I'm sure that had to have come up because of the way that this thing looks. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like Sonic.
Yeah.
They would know that people would have backlash. Not all of them, of course, but I mean, like, a couple of animators would know this isn't good.
Yeah. No, and I'm actually looking right now at the screenshot that's on our website right now for this article. But his eyes just look, how does anybody ever look at this, and especially the size of those eyes, and not think to themselves, this desperately needs to change, when you have a side by side of what the character actually looks like in the game.
You know why? Because management and upper management don't care or know or have any idea about these things. All they see is, oh, it's the fur character. It makes the money. Sonic is the big thing. It's going to print money. You know?
Yeah.
They just see, oh, it's to do this CG. You know, they don't understand typically.
No.
In any aspect I've ever worked in a business, upper management pretends to listen if you're lucky.
Yeah. If they do actually stay true to what they are saying and they are going to make changes, I can guarantee you they are not going to make any changes to the design of the character itself. I think that they are going to make some scripting changes, possibly, maybe rework a couple of the jokes, and that's going to be all they're going to do. Like those easy reshoots and those easy, like, change up the one-liners, and that's really going to be it.
So, honestly, if they do that, I think that that's actually what is going to benefit the most. If they do change how he looks and everything like that, it's just still going to be bogged down by jokes that fall flat and aren't interesting. Because I don't think that people are going to be like, well, Sonic at least looks okay. You know? And that's even if they can get that done. On that thought, you have to consider, and this is the stuff that I have like a skosh of knowledge about, you have to consider the workers who would animate this. They're perhaps contracted, and they're already off of their contract because their portion of the work is done, and they're already on to their next project. It's not like you can stop another project, bring them back super easily on this one, and then go back to the other project that was put on hold later once it's done. That's not how it works. There's crunch time suddenly for aspects that were not figured into pre-production or the planning stages. This is going to affect not only this project, but the next projects that those workers are working on to some degree.
Yeah.
This is just encouraging industry crunch, which has been getting a little bit more exposed lately, especially among low-level creatives such as animators, writers, developers for video games, and it's awful. I saw somebody on Twitter say, and I wish I remembered the guy's handle, I'm sorry, I don't remember your handle, dude, but he said that the trick here is to just accept the lowest bid from a VFX company, visual effects company, that's willing to do this. Then they will collapse financially before all of the overtime work has been paid, and then those workers are just SOL on all of this. We've seen that kind of thing happen all the time. And that's the other thing too, is that the production company needs to contract out a new contract with people last minute. Oh God, it's a mess. Like the administrative hurdles that you are going to have to go through, that is what drives my brain crazy. It's not just like the people are sitting there and, oh, okay, they just have to work some overtime and it shouldn't take too long. It really is not that simple.
Yeah.
It's insane, but it's not unheard of for them to make this happen. They could push the release date, but I don't think that they will. Who knows? They'll just hire more artists to push out new shots in less time, and then it makes the lives of those artists hell because someone in production had terrible taste and didn't listen.
Yeah.
From the very beginning.
You know what they say about the industry. Gotta go fast.
Well, the only thing fast is death. So let's talk about some quick news that's going on. Forza Street has the Nintendo Switch referenced in its source code. Now, this is an Xbox exclusive series typically, but the game Forza Street came to Windows 10 and is coming soon to mobile. Microsoft has been much more open as of late and has been more open to working with Nintendo. So this isn't out of the realm of possibility, but could this possibly be coming to Switch? So this will be something to keep our eye on. You can check out our website for the post where you can see the actual source code that we've done a screen cap of and highlighted every time that it says Switch in there. Now, I do have to point out though that there has been a lukewarm reception among our readers toward this game, Forza Street. A few people in our comments suggest that Forza Horizon 2 is the better choice if they were going to bring a game over. However, Forza Street is the new one that they're doing, and they're pushing it for mobile. So it might be the faster choice in terms of workflow to get that to go to Switch. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's lots of variables in the air. We're going to have to see how this evolves, because this is the overarching sort of partnership or relationship that Nintendo and Microsoft have been having as of late. And it's fascinating because we haven't seen anything like this in the video games industry, especially as of late, where everybody is like tucked away in their own corners.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned the partnership too, because looking over at like the actual source code itself, a lot of it is just linking to the Nintendo Switch ID.
Right.
And I mean, we do know that there have been talks between bringing Xbox Live to the Switch in some capacity. So this is a very interesting screenshot that we have on here. I don't know if there's anything we can take from it just yet. I think this is just going to be a piece in the puzzle that we'll be using in the future when we kind of like get an idea of what the puzzle is actually supposed to be a picture of.
Way to go with that analogy.
Oh, it's a donkey.
I believe it's called a jackass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eye on this and we'll report as soon as we hear anything.
Neat.
Now, another news tidbit is that Suda Goichi, also known as Suda51, is hosting a panel at Momocon this year, and he has announced that there will be an announcement.
Announcementception.
So if you guys don't know, Momocon is a convention held May 23rd of this year in Atlanta, Georgia. The panel is going to be called, is great title, Travis Talks Again with Suda Goichi. Now, if you won't be attending the event, it'll be live streamed on Twitch so you can see it around the world. It is important to point this out because last year at this same event is when they announced Killer 7's remaster or whatever it was for the PC. So people are speculating maybe this is a remaster of a different game.
Maybe we're going to see a remaster of No More Heroes for the Switch.
I don't think it's going to be something like that. We've seen people say stuff like that. We've also seen people jump to No More Heroes 3 announcement and Travis and Smash. I don't think it's going to be anything bigger than like the Killer 7 remaster kind of situation, because especially with E3 right around the corner, if it's anything that's Switch exclusive or Switch specific or whatever, I feel like Nintendo will want to push that on their E3 video direct thing.
Yeah.
So I really don't think that it's going to be anything too big. I think everybody, of course, put your expectations to the floor on this, but maybe at best we're going to see a different game being remastered and released on the PC or something like that. It'd be great if it was on the Switch, of course. Whatever Suda Goichi does, because he's a weirdo. I like weirdos. Just, I hope that it's evolved in the Switch somehow.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be later this year, or later this month, so.
Holy crap, it's May.
Yeah. Momocon is on May 23rd to 26th.
Holy crap. I was like, yeah, May 23rd in like 3 months from now. Whoa. Oh, this sucks. I mean, the passage of time is what sucks. Let's get existential, guys. Anyway, in terms of expectations, I'm putting mine as close to the floor as possible. I'm thinking it's probably going to be some kind of like official Momocon t-shirt promo or something for Travis in Travis Strikes Again, because they've been rolling out new t-shirts in there. So it's going to be something really stupid like that.
And, you know, it could also just be something as simple as like, hey, here's the new character that we're developing that's going to be DLC.
I don't think it's even going to be that big because they've already released 2 DLC packs.
Close to the floor.
So we also got word that Bloodstained, Ritual of the whatever it's called. What is it called? Ritual of the Night? Is that it? Ritual of the Night? Symphony of the Night? No, that's wrong. Whatever. Bloodstained, the real one, launching on Switch June 25th. Now that's way sooner than I thought.
Yeah, very excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. it's interesting that it's 1 week later on Switch than it is on all the other platforms, and I really wonder why. It's weird.
Could be some sort of like backdoor exclusivity deal, or like a timed release, or just like somebody gave them more money to come out on their console sooner. I mean, that stuff happens.
I mean, though, that would make sense if it was like, oh, coming to PS4 on this day, but then everything else later. It's literally everything 1 week earlier, and then Switch is the only thing that's 1 week later. And it's like, if there wasn't like really a reason, you would wonder like, well, why wouldn't you push all of the release dates to the same day so that way there's parity with every release, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder why.
Yeah, maybe they're just having some like technical difficulties with the Switch version compared to the others.
But only 1 week's worth? You know?
I don't know.
It's just weird. Anyway, it's only a week, so that's good. I'm sure they'll lose a couple of sales because sometimes when people are too hyped for something, they'll be like, whatever, I just gotta buy it. I don't care. Buy it. You know? So we'll see.
Nice.
I love 2D action platformers. I'm looking forward to this game. The new trailer that they released is actually the biggest part of the story here. You guys should check out the new trailer for sure on this game because it's absolutely hilarious. Have you seen it, Galen? You haven't seen it, have you?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay, well, good job. Good job preparing for the podcast.
Sorry, that time just kept slipping by. I was too focused on the fact that it's May now.
Was that a reference to that song? Time keep on slipping into the future. Anyway, this trailer is great because it starts off and it shows like some old gameplay of the game, and then little by little comments from like the Steam page, YouTube, like a whole bunch of social platforms start popping up where people are like, it plays fine, but it doesn't look all that great. It looks like a mobile game. Looks like it's alpha, that kind of stuff. And it just, it covers the entire screen 15 seconds later. And then it switches to Igarashi, the guy that is behind the creative process of the game. And he does his classic sip of the wine and throws his wine glass. And he's like, we'll show him. And then suddenly it switches. Yeah, it switches from, because they did have a couple of delays, right? And especially recently they said we're doing a delay to brush up the visuals or whatever they said. And they're showing back and forth where they show like old versus new. And they clearly have put a lot of work into the new versions. And it's showing off the visuals, and just not even the visuals, but like the changes that they made to models and assets, environments, that kind of stuff. And it's great.
Now that you mentioned that might actually explain the 1 week delay for the Switch, because if they have to actually program a difference between it being in 720 on the handheld versus like 1080 on the TV or something, like that is more work that you have to put into the Switch console versus all the other versions. So it might be an explanation.
Sense to me though, like 1 week's worth, it doesn't make sense to me. And especially like, I mean, you can say that about any aspect, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense. There's 1 week's worth of delay and then like just kind of pointing out anything that's different.
I'm just throwing out an excuse on this one. So
that's good that your brain goes that way, because my brain refuses to go that way now in my old age. But I wanted to say though about this trailer, right? So they show like, old and new footage, but it first starts out, and instead of the word old, they write the word poop, and then they delete it, and then they add the word old in. And it's like, oh, that's good. Just poking fun at yourselves. That's great.
That is fun.
But this is a good way, a good marketing way to be like, oh no, look, like the delay paid off. It's nice.
Nice.
Good.
Neat.
And lastly, we got news that Psyonix, the creators of Rocket League, have been purchased by Epic Games. Epic Games, if you don't know, are the makers of Fortnite and many other games.
Mm-hmm.
So Psyonix put out a statement, though, that didn't feel so much like a congratulations or we're excited about this. More so, it felt like damage control. Because there's been a lot of backlash to the Epic Store lately.
Mm-hmm.
And Psyonix was like, nothing is going to happen to Rocket League. I think in the statement they said eventually it'll go to the Epic Games Store, but they didn't say like it's going to be removed from Steam or whatever, or anything like that. So they're more saying like, don't worry, everything's going to be cool. We're still going to release more updates and add more content to all versions or whatever they said. So that's good for Rocket League and everything, but there is that big backlash to the Epic Store, right? So I think a lot of people are upset for sure, and then the more realistic people are skeptical of like, what is this? What is going on? Who are you now? Right now, what's happening?
I have mixed feelings on this. Like, I can definitely understand everybody's skepticism about this purchase simply because of the negative press that Epic has been receiving. And a lot of it has to do with this fear that Epic is going around snatching. It's encouraging a culture where a designer and a company can go around and buy up a bunch of smaller properties. Not that Rocket League is a small game by any sense, but just basically throw out all of this money and buy quality and create a monopoly of, hey, if you are going to be wanting to play our games, you have to deal with us. Like, that was part of the whole controversy going on with Borderlands 3. And that's the entire core of what's going on here. And there's some legitimate concerns on that as well, because with how many different companies that are trying to compete with Steam right now, and they are doing a very kind of lackluster job at that competition, it's concerning to see like so many backroom dealings going on without people. And I think the negative reaction is really just people saying, hey, wait, no, slow down. What are you doing here? Stop what you're doing, because focus on this other stuff and make it worth that we want to come over to your platform. Don't force us to come over there.
From a consumer point of view, right? That's what you're saying?
From a consumer standpoint, yes. Like, this entire thing seems very anti-consumer in the sense of they're, just like I said, they're forcing you to deal with them as opposed to other people. Now, I love in their press statement, they were like, hey, what's happening to Rocket League? And they're like, oh no, Rocket League's going to be fine. And then in their additional FAQ, it's, no, really, what's going on with Rocket League?
Yeah.
Like, they had to address it twice. Like,
yeah, that's why it felt like damage control.
I know. I feel like even Epic kind of realizes that there's this kind of like negative feeling about them as a whole. I feel like a lot of the backlash that's coming on the Epic Store is the quality of the Epic Store itself.
Yeah.
While that definitely is, you know, a legitimate concern, I mean, you wouldn't want to go to... I don't shop at certain locations because it's such a miserable experience to go through them, but it changes things when that is the only place that I can get said item.
Right, that's what they're hoping to do, is to sort of strong arm you to shop at their store because it's the only place that you can get A, B, or C.
Yeah. Like, on their long-term development goals, when they have a shopping cart feature as one of the things on their long-term development goals for their site, it's your priorities are in the wrong space, but they have so much money that they're kind of like laying down the foundations first and then growing on that consumer sense. And
absolutely.
I feel like this term is thrown around a little bit loosely nowadays, but it does seem very anti-consumer when your priorities are very much on, let's focus on creating a strong, almost sense of a monopoly first.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I looked into this a bit, like the Epic Store thing, because I'm not a PC gamer. I don't have really a great PC or anything like that. I barely have enough time to play my Switch and my PS4, so I just can't even get into PC games at this moment in my life.
Right.
So I am ignorant to this whole situation. I looked into it, and I looked into the backlash, tried to figure out what's going on here, right? So I'm going to sort of break it down a bit. There are legitimate concerns to the Epic Store and why it is garbage. There are also frustrations from the PC gamers about paid exclusives, because paid exclusives is something that PC gamers have been able to avoid, and it's something that they have taken sort of like a silent pride on, that they didn't have to deal with that nonsense. but now they have to deal with it, and it sucks. So there's a very strong backlash to that.
Yeah.
In terms of the store being garbage, from what I have heard, of course, this is all secondhand information, is that there's a lot of lazy programming behind it. You don't need email verification to make an account, which is unbelievable, and that needs to be fixed, like ASAP.
Right.
Because that means that people can steal your email out from under you without verifying it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crazy because you have your billing information in there and your address and everything.
Yeah.
There's no category features, no search function, no shopping cart, no offline mode. Those are all incredibly terrible. And it's, like you said, coming at this sort of ass backwards because their first push was to get a bunch of exclusives on their store rather than their first push being like basic security functions.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've seen that kind of a mentality in the past. Like, look at Sony with the PlayStation 3, especially with all of the hacking of the PSN accounts that actually happened a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, you can see the sort of damage that lackluster internet security can actually provide. And Sony had to spend millions of dollars in frickin' identity theft protection for their gamers in order to like settle this lawsuit that was going on. I remember I got an email on that. Like the lessons of past failures are there to be learned from, and I feel like those lessons, when it comes to how Epic is approaching things, are kind of being ignored.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wanted to bring those points up too, because it's not like I'm trying to be pretty balanced about this, where I'm calling out the awful. What word is that?
Wow, it's you're kind of on point today with those those word flubs.
Boy, if that is not throwing stones from a glass house, I don't know what is. Anyway, I'm trying to point out what is awful about the Epic Store, and then also say that like this isn't unique to them, though. Plenty of other platforms have done terrible things. Like, perfect example is PlayStation. They had their stuff hacked, which happens. Not that it's forgivable, but it does happen. But the biggest problem with that is that they didn't even encrypt users' passwords. So when they hacked in, they were like, oh, here's all the passwords to all these people's emails and profiles. That is a gross negligence on Sony's part. Steam also had their share of awful stuff happening. Like, I think it was a good year and a half ago. If you logged in, you might just be somehow in somebody else's account and have access to their billing address or whatever. I remember hearing about that because like that's such a weird thing, you know? So it's not unique to Epic, but my thought on that is this whole thing, I speculate, was built around Fortnite. Millions of people have Epic accounts because of Fortnite, right? So they built a store around that and went backwards into the whole thing to get paid titles before basic security functions. Their first thought is make some money, and we'll strong arm people into figuring it out later.
That's a really good point, and I believe like the success of Fortnite really kind of, which by the way is still not a completed game, and that still blows my mind. But
I have no idea. I played it once and I was like, I don't like the way it feels, and plus I don't like shooters, so whatever.
No, there was supposed to be this whole first-person story mode to go along with it, and the online portion was supposed to be like, here's a beta test, you guys can play it now, maybe get a couple stuff, and when we finish the game, you'll get a full copy of the game. Like, that's, from what I understand, how it was originally supposed to be.
Well, I can't blame them, though, for changing gears on that, though, with how much it blew up. That game is... I don't know if it currently is, but like it was the most popular game by miles for a long time. So I can't blame them to be like, we need to focus all of our resources on the online stuff to make sure it doesn't fall to baby bits and we can just scrap the story mode or whatever. Like, I can't fault that at all.
Yeah, no, I can't fault that either. But I definitely am in agreement with you with the way that the company has developed from a sense of, hey, let's make this really cool game, to, oh my god, let's make all the money in the world.
Yeah. Another aspect too that we do have to point out, because we talked about how it's kind of bad for consumers, and I do believe that currently it is bad for consumers for all of the reasons and probably a bunch more that I don't even know about that I mentioned. It is good for developers from a financial standpoint because from what I have heard, the Epic Store takes 12% of the income from video games that are released on there rather than what Steam takes, which is 30%.
Yikes.
So that's a huge chunk, and that's what they're trying to do to entice developers to release their games on that platform. And that makes sense. That's business tactics for sure. So again, I don't fault that. They will also reimburse small portions if your game releases and ends up selling way less than projections as well. Epic Store will reimburse some of your losses. So there's less cost of manufacturing in that. Cost of manufacturing is not the right word. Whatever, moving on.
Cost of production.
Cost of production, thank you.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense. But if you're going to do that, you also need to have basic security functions for your consumers. My God.
Right.
One aspect of this, though, that isn't understandable backlash is people blowing up crazy crackpot theories of like, they're owned by Tencent, so they're stealing my info and they're selling it to China. That's total BS.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes, because people on the internet are full of hot air. They're full of so much things.
The internet is dark and full of secrets.
Oh God, the night is dark and full of internet boys.
Yeah.
That said, though, I have heard that the Epic Store does sort of spy on your computer's processes that a lot of people do find uncomfortable. It's probably a marketing thing. I don't think that they're stealing your info and selling it to China. Maybe they are, but probably not. The thing to say about that is Tencent, as we pointed out a couple of episodes ago, own huge portions of a whole bunch of studios and publishers like EA, Ubisoft, Activision, so many more that I can't even think of off the top of my head. If they wanted your friggin' information, they already got it, and they've had it for a while now. So
it's true.
Put your crackpot theories back in the pot of crack. Crack is whack. Let's talk about DLC. Galen, what's up over there?
So I've got a little video that I called her found. Wow, I'm gonna redo that. Hold on. That was all over the place.
That's staying in.
So I found a little video actually just this morning called Little Mac is Bad by a YouTube creator called King of Skill. And he has a video series where he plays Smash Bros. Ultimate online. And it's just him picking a character and just playing it. But he tends to pick the quote-unquote low tier or bottom tier characters when he plays. And just completely wrecks face. And you can tell, like, he takes his own hits on there, so it's not a compilation of best of, oh, well, this is obviously why this character is great. What I
love
found...
that voice, by the way. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I love doing that voice. Like, you can make anything sound awful in that voice. Like, oh, geez, I just adopted a kid. The most, like, kind thing ever.
Man, I had to go out and feed the homeless today. God.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Anyway, what I really appreciated is just he threw all of it was like a cascade of different memes and video clips and just splicing in. Like, the editing was actually a little impressive, if not a little choppy in some places, but you could tell that he definitely had a lot of fun when he was putting the video together, and I really liked it.
All right.
So definitely check it out. It's only like, I think 5 minutes long or something, and it's a fun time.
For me, my video on YouTube is a video called Kondo Culture, The Fall of the House of Stuff. The YouTube channel is called What's So Great About That? Now, this is a video essay that is kind of like food for thought. It's very well edited, and it touches on a lot of aspects of the culture of minimalizing and some tangentially related thoughts as well. It leaves you with a lot of good jumping off points to explore the good and bad and how you personally collect or minimalize in both the physical and digital worlds. I'm just going to read the opening that they have in their info box on YouTube because I think it does a great job of summing up the video. The recent decline of objects goes beyond decluttering, so why are we suddenly so keen on getting rid of things? And what role do objects play in our increasingly digital world? This essay follows the rise and fall of stuff through art, philosophy, and Marie Kondo. Marie Kondo is the lady that's getting really popular right now because of her YouTube show. I forgot what it's called.
She has a Netflix series out too right now.
Did I say YouTube? I meant to say Netflix.
Oh, you meant Netflix? Oh, okay.
I did, yeah. That's what it is. Anyway, I've been all about that KonMari life because, oh God, I want to say 3, maybe 4 years ago, I bought one of her books, The Magical Art of Tidying Up, and it's fantastic. And the TV show, I think, is probably more accessible for people. It's kind of like a reality TV show kind of thing. I haven't really watched much of it, so I can't say whether I like it or not, but her books are great, and I do recommend them as well. So I guess I sort of had 2 additional DLC for you.
Nice.
Whatever, fight me.
What would you say that this additional DLC brings you great joy?
Yes, this additional DLC will spark joy. It will Tokimeku your life.
Nice. All right. Cool.
So check out links in our description. So let's go on to our favorites. Listener mail.
Listener mail.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
It's the only one I approve of.
Oh God, it has been the only one you've approved of. we're over 20 episodes in, and this is the first time.
Hey, what can I say? I have high standards, and you have poor output. Ooh, that cut to the bone, didn't it?
Nah, you missed it because you didn't know it was May. You swung too late.
How did I not know it was May, too? Everybody posts that stupid Justin Timberlake meme, and I keep seeing it and rolling my eyes, and I still didn't know it was going to be May.
Mamma mia!
Yo, so you want to read the listener mail?
Sure. And you guys at home, remember that if you want us to read your
Oh,
email,
geez, yeah, that.
send your emails to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. Oni, what's that email?
Our email is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
You send us those emails, and it may sound something like this. Dustin writes, "Hi, Galen and Oni. I love the intros you guys do for each episode. I think your intro game has been kind of on point, Oni."
Thank you, Knuckles
This
from
is-
Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom. Sorry. This is my first time writing in, so I wanted to ask you the same question I ask all of my friends. If you had the chance to re-experience any video game from your childhood in your adulthood, what would it be? Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin.
This is an interesting one for me. Because I mentioned a little bit earlier, like, there are some games like Phoenix Wright, and games that are very story heavy, that they definitely have such an emotional impact when you're first experiencing it, but once you play it and you start to replay it, it's the gameplay value that kind of has more emphasis there. And it kind of like changes the way that you're looking at the game. So there is one of my favorite games from last generation was The Last of Us for the PlayStation 3. And
okay.
I loved that game so much because the story was so emotional and enticing. The writing was phenomenal. It actually got me through that game because I was so invested in wanting to play it more. The gameplay itself was all right. It's a third-person, survival game that you're going around, and, there was nothing to the gameplay that would really entice me to replay it, but that story was so good. So I guess that would be one of the games that I would say I would want to re-experience, just kind of from a fresh standpoint. But the question also is a game from my childhood in my
you're putting in
adulthood.
2 answers.
Yeah. Well, and That's the thing. From my childhood to my adulthood, because I think about a lot of the games that I played as a kid, and one of my favorite games of all time that I associate greatly to is like the Lunar series, both Lunar 1 and 2. And I don't know if I would enjoy that game fresh as an adult because I don't have the time to invest in it the way that I used to as a kid. Because I don't have the time to sit down and just dive head into those JRPGs. It's the reason why I haven't completed Pokemon Sun and Moon. It's because even though it's portable, I haven't had time to go around and beat all the gyms and collect all the Pokemon and things like that. So this is a very interesting question, and it's kind of had me reevaluate the way that I look at games nowadays in general.
Well, good job, Dustin. You sent him into a bit of an existential crisis.
Yeah. Oh, God. Where's my life gone?
I like that. I think we need more emails that are introspective.
Send me into
and
a
weird.
spiraling depression.
Yeah. Actually, I want more emails that hurt Galen. Please.
Oh, Oni. Something's never changed with you.
Nope. Not since we were kids.
Yep. Speaking of, Oni, hopefully you have a much more lighthearted answer than I do. So, what would you say?
I do have a lighthearted answer, but that's not a hard one to follow up on. Considering your answer. So, with me, I definitely went the childhood aspect, and I was like, okay, what games did I play a lot as a kid? Because this is not necessarily what's your favorite game from childhood or anything like that. It is sort of related to that, but it's more what would you want to re-experience fresh as an adult? And I liked that thought process. So I had to think about it, and I think my answer would be Chrono Trigger, with a close follow-up being Final Fantasy VI. Chrono Trigger just has a tighter story and is well defined in its time travel mechanics. I think a lot of it would hit me harder in adulthood than when I was a kid. But on that thought, that's also why I said Final Fantasy VI was a close follow-up, because that story has more heady or complex themes to it than Chrono Trigger does. But I think Chrono Trigger's a tighter story, so I'm gonna have to go with that. But the sense of wonder that you get when you play that game and just being like, holy crap, there's time travel? Holy crap, I thought this was the end boss. Oh my god, this affects this in the past and then the future. Whoa, I just changed this thing and now there's a forest here? This was a desert before. Like, all those things would just blow my mind all over again. And I love when video games can give me that sense of wonder. And I have a real soft spot for well done time travel mechanics in video games, probably because of Chrono Trigger.
I can't really blame you for choosing either of those games because, I've heard from several people that Final Fantasy VI is probably one of the best in the series. Yeah. Knowing you, however, I'm surprised you didn't say Lufia 2.
That was actually one I was thinking about as well. But the story's not as good in that, so as much as I do love Lufia 2, the better answer is either Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI, in my opinion. Just because being an adult and re-experiencing that fresh, there's more to get out of that as an adult and more to sort of see yourself in the characters, I think.
I like these time travel questions.
Me too. I love time travel. So, also, I gotta point out, it's very interesting that you mentioned Lunar, and I mentioned, well, you kind of mentioned Lufia 2. Because there is a game that just came out on the Switch that reminds me a ton of both of those games. That's Shadows of Adam. That game just came out. Can't wait to start playing it.
Right.
So if you want to send us into an emotional, existential, or whatever kind of crises you want to put us into. I sound like one of those blue guys from Final Fantasy X too. Mishuna, what can I do for you? Ride the shoe puff.
I don't know why, but every time I hear that voice and I think of that, my mind automatically goes to your Servbot impression from Mega Man Legends. Or Mega Man Misadventures of Tron-Bon.
Servbot so much. Oh, they're so cute. Miss Tron, do you want to go back to the Gesellschaft?
That's the one.
Oh, God, I want to replay the Misadventures of Tron-Bon. God damn it, I love Mega Man Legends and those characters so much.
Man, wouldn't it be great if they came out with a sequel?
Yeah, they can call it Mega Man Legends 3. The squeakquel. What were we saying? Oh, yeah. You want to do the emails? You do the emails to us. We have the emails. Nintendo Everything Pod at gmail.com.
That email one more time is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
Thanks for the Chaos Emerald!
So what's coming up? What's coming out on Nintendo Everything? We have reviews that just came out of Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2, and Citus Alpha. Those are up right now, and we have some reviews coming out very soon for Final Fantasy XII and Duck Game, if I remember correctly, and some more stuff that I probably don't know about. So you stay tuned by going to nintendoeverything.com and checking out news 24/7 all the time. And a big reminder, which I forgot to say in the beginning of the show, we did a spoiler cast for Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do, and I think we'll do these kind of one-off weird episodes in the middle of our regularly scheduled programming. Every once in a while, maybe we'll try and do it like once a month in the future. I don't know about right now, but we're going to try and do something like that. I think it's a little fun. So if you're interested in Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, you can check that out. Even if you're not interested, I think that we end up talking about a lot of like tangentially related topics in RPGs and the Final Fantasy series in general that I think that you might find interesting. If you don't find it interesting, write a comment that says, wow, sucks.
We also get to discover the terrifying secret that you play as a chocobo.
Chicken.
A chicken chocobo. Chocobos are chicken. Kentucky Fried Chocobo. That's good. I like that.
Thank you. And again, check out our Twitter. That's at NinEverything. Got the YouTube at Nintendo Everything. Wait, no, that's wrong. YouTube.com/Nintendo Everything. Then, of course, my Twitter is at Oni_Dino. And my Instagram, where sometimes I upload pictures of my sock that has a hole in it. Don't you just want to follow me on Instagram?
All of the quality content.
That's at Oni__Dino. 2 underscores. Galen, where do you upload pictures of your feet?
I don't, because my feet are sacred. And not furry. Or if you want to follow all of my uploads
No,
of
if you want him to
and...
send pictures to you of his feet, follow him on the Twitter.
Yep, that Twitter is at Mobius087. Oh, God.
Oh, I would love it if somebody harasses you for feet pictures. We've got to have some... judging from our personalities, there's got to be some creepy weirdos that listen to this podcast. What up? What up? My home fam.
I'm going to tweet you a picture of my feet right after this.
I will delete my Twitter. I hate it. So anyway, consider sharing this podcast with a friend you really hate, because this kind of quality content is only for people that you hate, like Galen.
Aww.
And for everything Nintendo,
Stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
bye-bye.
I'm totally taking a picture right now.
I hate you.